the roll call. Here. Commissioner Mayor. Commissioner Barron.
Here.
Commissioner Alden.
Here.
Commissioner Borman.
Here.
Commissioner Magley.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wilkins. Commissioner
States of America and to the republic one indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the review and approval of the prior meeting minutes. Minutes you'll find attached. And does anybody have anything to speak to on the prior meeting minutes, or do we have them approving the prior meeting? All those in favor? Opposed? Brings us to the action agenda, which is number 5 on the agenda, the public hearing for the rezoning of the Hathaway North Jefferson property from the residential R1 to residential R3. So this time I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. We have something, as those that are going to speak, would you please come forward to the microphone, please state your name and address, and try to be mindful of the time as we can. So it's now open for those.
Good evening, my name is Keenan Simon, 1516 Business Route 70 West. I'm here to speak on behalf of the working with them on the project. Going to keep this real short and sweet. Just want to provide a reminder for just if you want to take a look at. This is the Centralia projected land use from the I guess the planning and zoning document that was created by the city of Centralia. That's what we use as guidance, looking for a location for a multifamily type project. And as you'll see, the property is outlined with the multifamily future zoning category. And also outline the property in a blue color. Just bring it up. With that, if there's any questions, I am available for questions. But all the requests for this evening is for the multifamily zoning category.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to speak to them while we're looking at this?
So if there's no more questions from the board,
We have questions. We'll
awesome. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
One Sheriff's Office at 1397 East Highway 22 Centralia. As I said before, I have absolutely no opposition to Mr. Hathaway's project. My concern is more greatly in the procedure. And to that point, I guess I would question 97 on your window side. And that's the question that, depending on what you need in that discussion, it would likely be inappropriate to take an action on this rezoning request until you've had that discussion and not run the risk of approving something now, only 30 minutes from now to say, hey, we're going to change the rules, and the horse be out of the barn. If lot sizes and that sort of thing would be appropriate to have that discussion prior to this rezoning request. And then I would reiterate my previous concern. Everyone understands the stair stepping of the zoning levels, and that the requirements for each zoning level still to be held intact, regardless of what the zoning level you're using. Beyond that, as I said, I have no opposition, everyone thinks that I don't want this. I quite honestly couldn't care less whether he does it or not. The greater concern for our farm and from governance of our farm is that we follow an appropriate set of rules and protocols across the board for everyone. Case by case happens.
Does anybody else have anything to add from the public? Do you have any questions for the public? Would you like to close the public? So with that, I'm gonna close the public side of the hearing, bring it into the commission for discussion. Go ahead, Len.
Because I would have. I don't think it's a problem for us, per se, but when both of these come before the board, you know, we take that to the board that's first.
Eva. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to talk about?
I think we should hold the vote on this until after we discuss the other. I'm not saying we shouldn't vote on it, but I think we should wait until after we discuss.
You can make a motion for a point of order on the agenda, the recommendation.
I'll make this motion. I'll say it.
All those in favor of the motion to reprioritize the agenda? I think so, revise the agenda. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So we will go to 16. All right, so let's pick up on, action 6 about adding citizen members to the planning and zoning commission. 5. There's 9 total members, 1 is the mayor, and 3 are city officials, actually appointed by the mayor. And the other 5 are the resident citizens. The action is to add additional citizen members to the, we're taking it from 5 to a higher number.
Yeah,
5 number.
because we have 5. We're here at advisory roles, we're not here to make the recommendation. We're here more in the support of advisory role, that's how we should be. And so you got 5 to make a quorum, right? So you gotta have at least 3 to have a quorum. And to expand that would give, potentially, product, if we have more. So, that's not what it came from.
We would have higher citizen representation.
So if now, instead of 5, we can set on more than 6, 7, whatever it be.
We did it with a quorum.
You want and, yeah, he's like, go to 5, I'd recommend going to 7. 7 being the fact that you don't do it all the time. I'm telling, not that I would go for 9 people or whatever, it becomes very hard to do. Question. Is there, I mean, I've been on the board as both a citizen and as an alderman. We always voted when we did that. Is there any way of making these voting members? City members? I believe it's a major conflict of interest. You decide what is going to be recommended to us, the board, and I'm the mayor that brings the tie, which ties in the tree. So I believe we should absolutely be here to answer. Yeah. But, so to me, I think that's, I don't believe in the process that we should do it all here, but other than is a capacity to listen and where we would, as far as ordinances, you know, how we would go about process, that kind of thing, answering questions, or take back any questions to get answers back to the group. So I think that we should not be voting on that because we're the ones that are gonna have the recommendation brought to us, and then we're going to be in consistent from there. If we have three people in here that are on the board, and the mayor, then we can do whatever we would want to do when it comes down to this is high vote, and I just don't want to put in that spot, it's just not right. So that's my thing on it.
And I have no objection to it. You know, personally, if we're going to get rid of the city, people on the board, because they can always be called in and invited to the role. And get rid of all of them, including you as the mayor. I have no objection to any alderman or the mayor sitting in, listening to what's going on. People up here should be voting, other than the city staff who is here to represent.
I don't have a dog in this fight, I'm fine with that. I mean, bottom line is, I mean,
It doesn't mean finding,
well, what's my God here? So it's been, I don't know.
it would mean finding 4 new people to put on there. In a lot of respects, I think the more people that learn about planning and zoning, the better off we are as a city. So, you know, I need 4 people that would be willing to serve and learn this. It is, in a lot of ways, a very good thing for the city.
I have no problem.
My only concern on all along is, I mean, I've been here for 5, 6 years, and we had numerous meetings, you know, with people here.
Right.
So I would warn against not, because I think because it's very, I'm just telling you, it's hard to get 9 people. When we're going from 5 to 7, that's a pretty big jump in the number of councils you have, right? So, on the committee, so, voting members, so, look, whatever you guys propose to us, we'll talk about, and so I'm giving you some feedback about the challenge, I think, 4 9. But what you all will do, that's fine.
Get to 7 and have, you know, a better chance of having a quorum and keeping things to schedule and actually have.
Right, you know, the forum is 3 out of 5.
Right, and we have struggled, well, at least since I've been here and doing that, and I'm part of the problem, because I travel.
If we go to 7, I mean, it will be 4 out of 7.
4 out of 7, that then, you know, kind of puts you into a tie-breaking situation for 4 out of 7. The risk. Prefer to have 5 out of 7.
Yes? Certainly would. Prefer to have 7 out of 7.
You know, as far as my opinion on, you know, only having the voting members on here, I mean, I just think that the city, I think that, you know, we need them there from an advisory, so long as we have them there from advisory, whether they're sitting here or there. I'm go either way.
One point, the revised statutes of Missouri state that the planning commission shall include the mayor if the mayor chooses to remove it. So
Good point.
the mayor may choose not to be a voting member, but if you want to find future mayors, but matter, does the court really need a recommendation from the current commission? This is not part of the planning chapter or zoning chapter. It's a legislative, political decision to be made.
That's correct. I mean, if it's not in the planning and zoning chapter, it doesn't require our recommendation. I certainly think that we ought to provide some feedback on stuff.
You're doing it.
Yeah, and so when you say, as far as my concern, I don't think, I think the mayor should have a chance to be involved, I think. I wouldn't want to tie that completely up to the board, but the bottom line is, that mayor, he or she may have to be in a tie vote, and if they were strongly involved in what the recommendation was, I think the people are gonna say it's conflict of interest, so I think it should be that damn way from now on, that the mayor should not be in here, or city council members should be sitting in here, helping to come up with the recommendation that they're gonna vote on. I just a conflict of interest, whatever we say, even if it's not, I mean, you know how that is. So, I mean, as far as that goes, as far as me being here, I don't mind being here, but I kind of, more than two, 3, 4 months, meetings ago, said, we should not be voting at all on this thing. And after asking about it with the city, she said, we shouldn't, advisory role should not be voted, 5 that are elected should be the ones that vote. So.
You must be aware of case law that isn't,
But the point being, I mean, I don't understand. Does everybody follow what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But why I think it's,
I don't disagree with what you're saying. The problem I have with changing 4 people out at this point is you're dumping 4 brand new people on the board with non-staggered terms unless we were to choose to stagger them. If we went to something like 7, see how that works out.
I don't.
Then we could see, and then maybe at a later date, consider.
We could, I mean, it'd be more manageable, is my point,
Much more manageable, yes.
at this time, to get people that actually want to be involved in it and understand it, rest on the authority, that's good overall, for diversity and everything else in the city. So, I mean, I'm glad to do that part of it, but yeah, I would say, from my standpoint, I think that
I don't know how other cities and sorts of business construe whether that handicaps you or not on making that selection. The point of levity on that, you could appoint a commission of 15.
well, 15 living days. Anything, I mean, I'll try my best, but anything I do is meet the expectations. I have no problem with that.
We make a recommendation that we add 2, citizen members to replace 2 of the city members. At this point, and see how that works going forward. And I might even further say that, maybe the public works director should be the other city member. If terrorism and advice that we're listening to.
That is a good point. He's not involved in voting at all.
Well, that's true. You don't have to be a member to be on the board, and he's.
That's your recommendation, is to add 2.
2 citizen members to replace 2 city members.
Sorry, Lenny.
Don't break my arm.
Do we have a second on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Right, so that takes us to adding 2, citizen members to replace 2. Yeah, that's a recommendation. All right, this brings us to number 7. So regarding the lot size requirements for single and two-family homes in R1, R2, and R3. Anybody like to start on?
I did a little bit of research, see what our ordinance said. Single family, it basically says that all new single family lots have to be 7,000 square feet. And yet in our R2 and our R3 ordinance, it says, suggested 6,000 square feet is appropriate. I think that, for new lots, they all conform to the R1 standard of, 7,000 square feet. Propose that, we change the 6,000 square feet to 7,000 square feet in both the R1 and the R2, zoning category. Furthermore, in the R2, it says every building or portion of a building hereinafter erected or structurally altered for residential purposes in district R2 shall provide a lot area of not less than 6,000, that's what we're changing to 7, or what I'm recommending, square feet per family and single-family dwellings, 5,000 square feet per family and two-family dwellings, provided that, where a lot is less area, then it goes on for, this other stuff. I think the same language ought to be put into the R3 in the same place, and changing the R2 there to R3, making it 7,000 square feet even in the, multifamily, or R3 zoning. R2 very clearly spells out, and it's very clearly adding a sentence that says, and 5,000 square feet per family and two families. That is very clear, it's concise, all the rest of the language goes in there, and then at the very end of that, you would add on the section that says, including the regulations as established therein for garages, stables, et cetera, which we probably want to keep in there. But just change up, that first couple of sentences, add that whole paragraph from R2 in there, spelling out that R2 is 10,000 square feet, even under R3.
Which paragraph are you talking about?
It's in red. Section numbers at the top of these paragraphs.
Okay, so for your wording that you're proposing here, each lot shall provide in R3, not less than 15,000 square feet per family. How does that work for a multifamily building?
That's not
For,
shall provide not less than 7,000 square feet per, family and single-family dwellings and 5,000 square feet per family and two families.
Right, but,
That has to do with, where public sewer is on.
gotcha.
So that's in the existing ordinance under R2, it should be in there under other stuff. But that's primarily for a single family dwelling, but it's the same
Can
one.
you make a copy of this so I can?
Sure.
Our proposal, it would make, we would be consistent from R1 through R2. State that already in R1.
Yeah.
You would just be bringing up to 7,000 from 6,000 in R2 and R3 for single family. Previously, in conversations, we had discussions that it was a 10,000 square foot. This is just giving clarity. When we say 5,000 square foot per family for a two-family dwelling, that brings us to a 10,000 square foot lot size minimum. when we get to R three, I guess my question is maybe I wanna make sure I'm clear on this in R three. R one, R two. In R three, we can actually have more than two family dwellings.
We have more, yes,
And what's our lot size specification then when we go something more than just a two family dwelling
2,500 square feet.
per family?
Yes, and I'm not sure if I included that or not. I copied and pasted part of this, and
Yeah,
I was trying to do it in a hurry before coming over here,
so the 2,500 per family, which is already in there today.
which is what's in there today, and we're not intending to change that.
Right.
Can you include that last part, probably, what you're saying?
R three, what we're saying with the new proposed wording would be 7,000 square foot minimum for a single family residence. It would be 5,000 per family for a two family residence, which would be a 10,000 square foot lot for the flood or situation. And then if you have something more than two families, three and above, then it's a 2,500 square foot minimum per family. Now, this is where I'm gonna ask this question. Somebody comes in and builds a three family dwelling, then we're saying at 2,500 square feet, you just put three families, 7,500 square foot. We're making it a 10,000 square foot minimum for two family dwelling.
That's correct. And
For that, I
It's the same for R3, right?
yeah, and I did leave out that part.
It's the same.
In what I wrote, I left out the part about the 2,500 square foot per family park.
Yeah, Yeah.
Because I just copied and pasted, and I forgot to put that back in. But that was not, I wasn't intending to take that.
I want to make sure, because I did see, so does anybody, so based on what Don has laid out in front of us, questions?
No,
So a suggestion was brought up by a couple of different people that, we could possibly consider R1 being strictly single family homes, R2 being strictly duplex type homes, and R3 being strictly multi-family homes. And just out each thing it.
one, 2, 3, multi. That's what it really forecloses a lot of flexibility, and that's not the trend of zoning in most.
Yeah, and I agree with Lynn. We have a lot of single family homes that are in R3 now. And if you change that, then they become a non-conforming use, and if there's a fire and then houses burn, to a certain percentage, you can no longer, rebuild a, single family home on there. Those are 6,000 square foot lots. You can't put a duplex on there, and you can't put a three family on there either. So you really screwed with people, and that's probably an unfair taking. And the city could end up being in a lawsuit, beyond losing that.
You carry this on to commercial, you wouldn't be able to have years your zone commercial.
There's a lot. Rezoning. We'd be doing a lot more rezoning. If we were that strict, I think, we're more flexible.
You want, you want to guard against the property becoming just non-resident. That's the last thing we want to do, is not have usable, green space and natural native grass, like somebody want to do with one of yours.
If I may, follow up on Mr. Borman's comment, and I think where Don is coming from is from a rebuilding perspective, but that trickles down also even into if you going into a legal non-conforming use, not only does it hit them on the building permit side if something happens, but it will also hit them potentially on the financing side of how the house is appraised, and then if the reviewer or the underwriter picks it up and says, well, this isn't exactly in the zoning it's supposed to be, and he can't be rebuilt, so we're not gonna make these people a loan. They think, yeah, the straight zoning, that seems like a clean way to do it, and if you were starting from an empty town, that would be okay, but I think the consequences of that one,
And
those
you
tentacles
do
go
get
pretty
it
far.
years. Originally, all these lots in town, I was just, they weren't intended as multifamily, they were intended as single family. When the, town was platted, yes, there was gonna be some businesses, and that's fine. Now, all of a sudden, coming back later on and saying that, yeah, this becomes.
Over history, it's always been easy to explain to somebody that in phrase, zoning is the inverted pyramid, and higher the zoning category, the more it could be allowed. With the that sort of thing, and it makes sense. And if you went the other way, you'd just be creating silos. And I'm not sure that would even go along with will of the people. I think John's, when he's written it out closer, not exactly like Columbia. The way I read Columbia's lot size doesn't have to be as much, but to what they consider our multifamily. But then you go to 3,500 foot families with more than one family. So that if you had a complex, you'd have to have a lot that was 10,500.
Or just, we had a triplex right now, we have
That's not true. City of Columbia. 17 units per acre. The multi-family. So 43, 560.
I didn't go down and talk to them.
2,560 per dwelling unit. Multi-family. 2,560.
It's different.
I believe that ours currently, what it is for multifamily niches in counties also.
We weren't trying to change.
And that's on the duplex, the two family, we're in one between counties. No, the, three and up, yes.
But it's also in line with the county duplex.
It is, okay. We're in alignment with Boone County and close to where we are with Columbia, and it seems to be reasonable, what Don, in my opinion, what Don has written up, that he's looking at 27 per family on 3 and up. I can't argue, or wouldn't want to argue it.
And I can write that up. Put that right back.
Well, if you're gonna make a recommendation, we ought to, we get it written up. You guys need to put, the recommendation together, right, on what this will be.
Does anybody,
And realizing that this is not a public hearing, and before this can go forward, we have to have a public hearing on it. So we're just talking about what we're wanting to do, and we still have to have another meeting, have a formal public hearing on it. The language should be worked out between now and then.
So what we would do is the recommendation from the planning and zoning tonight would be considered at the board of alderman meeting on the third Monday. And then Sydney would take her direction from the board of aldermen if they vote to go for her to do up a new ordinance. And then that ordinance becomes the planning and zoning for the public hearing. Are you making the recommendation then on
Yes.
lay out?
I mean, at this point, it's nothing official, I mean, it's official here, but it's not something that's a recommendation.
No, it's a recommendation. Alderman. Eventually get that.
Terminology, languages.
Do we, sorry, do we just need to add in and not less than 2,500 square feet per family?
Or multifamily,
Sure, yeah,
Greater than.
per family for multifamily.
that's what I'm.
Yes.
This is what it says in our resolution. Okay, so you had a second on that. All those in favor to, for the recommendation on the clarifying language of the R1 through R3, based on, aye, opposed? So then that'll go before the Board of Aldermen. Just to clarify what that means is that the R1, which is currently 7,000, remains. There's no change to R1 for single family. R2 and R3, the recommendation that you're going to write is going to go from 6,000 to 7,000 square feet per single family. And then in R2, which is the multifamily or two-family dwelling, would be 5,000 per family, and then in R3, it'll be 5,000 per family for a two-family dwelling, 2,500 per family for 3 and up.
Not changed.
That part's not changed.
3 has not changed, with happening project is, that's changed nothing in it. It's just, it was what we were talking about before. Two.
The two,
Same R1.
yeah,
And that was part of the charge, from the city, board of aldermen, was they wanted us to look at, the R2 on this also, and even the PD requirements, make sure that we probably both get back up to, to get them consistent across, what they were for single family. Because they went from 7,000 to 6,000, didn't make much sense. I think that was probably a holdover, it's probably change.
we'll just clean that up. We get it there. Okay, so that, takes us through 7. So now, we'll go back and pick 5, which is back to the rezoning request for the, North Jefferson property, R1, M1 to
Questions, Mr. Hackman?
Go ahead. I was gonna say, to be fair, after we just had this whole discussion, I probably.
Yeah, of course.
What is your intention to do with
Multi-family development.
R3 or R4?
Yeah, R3.
I mean, 3-family or 4-family,
I think it's gonna be a mix depending on the.
no duplexes.
Well, if we wanna do duplexes, we'd have to have a lot that is 10,000 square feet. Which is allowed.
Yeah. And I have no objection to the R3 zone. But my objection was always to the fact that if you're putting in duplex, it should be to the duplex standard, which is what would be, I think, the ordinance was, and it's clearly in the intent of Boone County and then.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, how many of these changes are significant, make no difference stuff.
You have no objection of us proceeding back to.
No, not at all.
I feel like we're gonna
Can I say something? Want me to go up here to the mic?
Yes, please.
Oh,
Only open the public hearing.
my name's Darren Adams, 814 Lockport Drive, here in Centralia. Couple questions I have from the board is, what's so wrong with having denser populations? As we continue to talk in the city of Centralia about affordable housing, costs are higher. People are having a harder time affording a home. We're trying to draw more people here. What's wrong with denser populations?
The only problem with denser populations is R1 and R2 buildings can be built by a builder. Architect. R3 provides that extra layer of protection and architect is required. So you're looking at fire codes and everything else. So when you get to the denser requirements, that's where the architect's involved, the zoning code, the building codes and everything else.
Question about what's wrong with the denser lot size.
What size are you talking about?
Are you referring to like a duplex
What-
being on something
yes.
less than 10,000 square feet in a single
Duplex.
family residence?
Why does the duplex need to be 10,000 square feet?
Eric, can I? Wasn't speaking, but I'm in agreement with what he said. We don't have a stake in the game on changing your zone. But I've expressed it to several of you privately, individually, but dragging forward the lower density ratings in R2 into R3 is going to handicap, exactly to his point, what the long-term goal, not the next 2 years, 5 years, but to drag, if you don't want duplexes in R3, don't put duplexes don't allow them in R3.
But we do allow single family in R3 too.
Talking about single family. We're talking about creating more density in targeted areas next to cemeteries, to commercial property, where you're trying to implement a lower density with the 10,000 square foot lots on a systematically categorized R3 category that your own analysis said you needed R3 there. You're not allowing R3 there. You move the field goal post to stop an R3 development and arbitrarily change it to an R2 development. If you change the R2, or excuse me, the R3 duplex zone.
I would disagree with that. We all allow
Then your
2,500
disagreement,
square feet per
then
lot.
your disagreement will hopefully answer his question.
The difference is that if a duplex is listed as 10,000 square feet, if you're trying to say that because it's 2,500 square feet per family for R3, that we should allow a duplex on 5,000 square feet, if that's the case, then you should be able to build a single family home on 2,500 square feet. Is that what you're suggesting?
Not even remote, because it doesn't answer his question.
I think the density has to do with a lot of things, and I think that this requirement is a valid requirement. I think it's what was intended in the first place. I want to see that it goes forward.
The city of Columbia was on 93 now this weekend, talking about how they're trying to provide higher density just for the simple fact of affordability. And so I'm not saying that it needs to be 5,000 square foot for a duplex, but what you're seeing is most duplexes are not owner occupied here in Centralia. And so they're leased units typically. So landlords maintaining the exterior of that. And so what would it hurt if there was denser population on those where it hits the 7,000 square foot mark rather than the 10,000?
I think it goes against what we've been trying to do all along.
Which is what?
It's mainly, and you gotta realize, R1 is your least dense, right? R3 is a much more dense. R2 is a transitional zoning between those. It's not always, you don't always find R2 between R1 and R3 or other things, but it is a transitional zone. And so you're trying to hit a medium of getting gradually more dense. I've seen developments in Columbia that started out where they built single family up front, then they built some duplexes behind those, and they built R3 behind that. What you don't want is to see the opposite way. Well, I mean, that's, excuse me, that's actually kind of backwards, because what you wanna see is you wanna see the single family driving through an R3 area, you don't want to put the R3 traffic or the R2 traffic through a single family, residential neighborhood. So, you know, I've seen it go both ways in Columbia, but I mean, that's what we're trying to avoid is running your denser traffic through, lighter density. I mean, I don't object to the R3 out there. If you wanna build fourplexes out there.
I'm not even talking about that specific project, I'm talking in general. You know, I wasn't commenting, I'm keeping my mouth shut. However, I saw this on here about the discussion of lot sizes.
Do you wanna see smaller lot sizes on R1?
No, I think lot, yeah, I do. I mean, let's be completely honest about it. I mean, why don't we do some true planned developments?
Well, if that's the case, then we should put in a planned development that would allow something like that. And I would have no objection to going forward with that.
But I think that it really needs to err on the side of caution whenever we're sitting here trying to make lot sizes bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, this is trying to rectify an ordinance that was poorly written.
Yeah, but I've had my shoe on the other foot of being kicked down the road for 4 months, almost 3 years worth, to do my last project. And so I don't think it's fair for a person that comes in here to do a project to sit there and keep on kicking the can down the road just because you determined that now after the was city administrator for 30 years. And it's just now becoming an issue because somebody wants to do something. But that's all I ask.
You bring up a valid point about planned developments, and that is something we don't really have in our ordinance. That I have figured that at some point we probably could. We have not addressed that to this point. Maybe this is the time to bring that up. I don't think that's what we want to address tonight, but I do think it's something we should.
So out of curiosity, you said that you want to rewrite the ordinance because it's poorly written, but in fact you want to change the ordinance. Because you.
I believe the intent of the ordinance, the way it was written, was 10,000 square feet for duplexes in the first place.
You're saying that if you're increasing the lot sizes, you're decreasing the density in each one of the categories.
No, we're not changing, well, we're
Yeah,
changing
changing
from
R1.
6,000 to 7,000 square feet, but that's to comply with the R1 zoning anyway. That should have been done a long time ago.
So you are rewriting it to decrease.
Okay? That's what you want.
One, this is fact.
Well,
I'm just,
we're trying to bring it into compliance with where the R1 zoning is now. And that was one of the directions that the Board of Aldermen told us to take. We should look at that.
okay. So I guess my point is that it's, it states in R1, 6,000 square feet, but
No,
not
7,000 square feet.
7,000 square
On anything flat after maybe where you get on the.
Anybody else have any comments on the public side? So what,
So we're back to.
back to number 5. Right, I think we need to take up number 5, finish number 5.
This discussion here is about stuff.
Right, that discussion was about 7, and I really think that,
That's separated out. This is 5 is 3, so. This is, should be. And.
Yeah. it does not sound like to me it impedes the progress of what they want to do. Go ahead and rezone to R3 if that's what recommendation is from the, if we have a recommendation from the board to commission to the request for the rezoning for R1, R1, R2 from their request. Do we have a recommendation?
Well,
Any recommendation?
My only problem with moving forward with his recommendation at this point is if he were to choose to build duplexes out there and, he could, file a lawsuit against the city of unfair taking. If he gets it done before we get, this rezoning, or this, change to the zoning ordinance. He could build it under what he thinks is the current ordinance, whether he's right or not, you know, he might have to take it to court.
The current ordinance, the way that, the city attorney reads it, would be 11,000 square feet for a duplex in R3.
Oh, okay. I don't have a problem with that. So people we're trying to make it less.
Yes, Mark?
Motion that we find that the request for rezoning of various properties to R3 be substantially consistent with the Centralia Company. That we, recommend the Board of Aldermen that they enact an ordinance to accomplish that rezoning. Heard you with all the legal and that, they act on that ordinance after this, taking an action.
Do you want the recommendation to rezone to R3, but you want to recommend the order that the proposed language for the R2, R3 zone first?
Takes care of Tom's. Second. Anyway.
Can we do that? Can they?
This is not an unusual request, and I've never. One will take a lot. But I'm still. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, all right, so just to clarify what I was asking, that would be ordered such in the same agenda, so it doesn't require two separate meetings of the Board of Aldermen, so we can.
If the board doesn't approve your recommendation.
So what'll happen at this Board of Aldermen meeting is they will, direct the city attorney to drop the new ordinance. They'll have some discussion, and if they don't agree with, some of the numbers, then they'll have Sydney draw it up with what they are recommending, and then that'll go back to P and Z, and we'll have to have a public hearing for that ordinance. And then from that meeting, the P and Z board will make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen on what they want the ordinance to look like, if they want the final standing way that Sydney wrote it up, or if they are recommending changes. And then the board will vote on that.
Maybe what they told, what their charge was, they suspected that unlikely.
We already did it.
Regardless, he doesn't affect the zone 3 has been properly requested here. That would be that in fact. I mean, we'll need a motion to understand what you're saying. It shouldn't negatively affect their project.
The only thing I would say from that standpoint is the only negatively affecting is their time. So it goes to a Board of Aldermen meetings, then they wait, then it comes back, here, and then they wait.
No, what CR3 is approved, it doesn't, it's done.
Yeah, so
So it's an automatic approval for their zoning request, as long as the language is approved by the Board of Aldermen. If it's not, it's going to, let's go to Board of Aldermen. We agree, they agreed to change the language we just said, so then that's gonna go to another 2-week public hearing.
Then it's gotta come back to us, we have a meeting, then it's gotta go back to the Board of Aldermen to approve the rezoning request.
But their rezoning application doesn't,
That's separate, so the
totally separate from
the
the
rezoning
The board
request was
can
forward regardless.
It's made
board
up
can
the
vote to
president.
approve it.
Yes. It won't hold them up. This shouldn't hold them up on that one.
That would be my concern.
Well,
I'm extremely important.
I think what Lou was asking is that the order of which they take up when we send the recommendations, is that they first look at the language, just so they don't like what we did here today. So, if they could still vote separately, just on the R3 rezoning regardless, right?
Yes. In light of what Tara said of, Sydney's determination of what the lot size for a duplex would be, I would second Lynn's motion.
I remember what we just said here, so. All right, so as I
We're on
read here,
recording here, the secretary can go back.
yeah, I know, I just wanna make sure I repeat it correctly when I ask for the vote here. So, for Lynn's recommendation on second would be to, recommend to the board the rezoning, approval of the rezoning for R3 and, specific order with what we've heard from already. Ordered first in that agenda. All those in favor? Opposed? All right, so with that, then it'll go before the Board of Aldermen, recommendation for three,
It's the next Board of
which
Aldermen.
is.
Do Mondays away.
Yeah, 16th.
And sorry, gonna advertise for public hearing.
Okay, so go 2 weeks. All right. Brings us to the as may arise section of the agenda, number 8. The only, oh, go ahead. Have you something? So I did notice, John, in your language, and I just want to make sure, because this is exactly what got us into trouble and where we're at right now. So in your wording, you have, I'm just gonna start at 7,000 square feet per family in single family dwelling and 5,000 square feet per family. And gets us in trouble. I just wanna make sure that it's not the recommendation of the planning and zoning commission. Add that.
Yes, I copied the wording and, it probably should say, be a comma there and then be an or in front of the not less than 2,500 square feet. Same thing would apply, there should be probably an or where it says and up here and or two. We can look at that.
So for, as may arise, does anybody have anything you'd like to bring up?
I've got one item. I'm looking for it.
Plans at all?
In section F of, section 31-20, which is R1 zoning, it talks about the width of the lot. It says minimum width of the lot shall be 60 feet at the building line, provided that where a lot platted before January 9th, 1961 has less than width than herein required, this section shall not prohibit the erection of a one-family dwelling thereon, but provided further that two contiguous adjacent lots in common ownership as of 1961 have been used as one, lot by erecting a dwelling on the common lot line, and no further dwelling shall be erected on either lot. I think that last part out is true. I think that those lots should be legally, there's been no vacation of the lot line, there's been nothing else. I think it's a bad thing. We have ones that I know of where that's been done. Nobody realized this section was in.
I'll use this as a learning opportunity for you to explain it better to me.
There are lots in town that are 50-foot lots. And there, what this says is that if there's two of those lots together,
Mm-hmm.
and they built a single-family home on there across the common lot, that from that point forward, that's a single-family lot of the two lots. And that's So even though the city never vacated the plat or those lot lines or anything, the lot lines still exist, but this says it doesn't. And
So you wanna have 250-foot houses?
we have a lot of others on, yep, you would have 250-foot lots.
I believe that, then, we have the ordinance change. What you said about that?
No, it wasn't more than if the house was saying the building, common lot.
Now one line.
Well, then when did, at some point, we put 60 feet in, what was that for them?
That was put in a long time ago, well, probably back in 1961. That's when that came in.
The way it had been interpreted, I don't think that they looked at this part of the code and then when we caught it, if moving forward. If the home that was erected on the common lot line was taken down, it was still considered a one lot. You say if we,
If they're all 50-foot lots in there and most of the, a number of the houses are in there on 50-foot lots, if somebody decided they just wanted a bigger lot built on a bigger one, you know, the lot should have been vacated, or the lot line should have been vacated or should have been replatted or something. That has not been done. Now you're saying that, well, you got a 100-foot lot. We don't care if all these others are only 50 foot. It speaks to the density that Darren was talking about.
Yeah, I don't want you to say that we're just reading through the ordinance and,
Well, I understand.
and enforcing for our jobs. That's what we're doing.
I understand.
We're not trying to, neglect anybody, but we have to interpret our way and with the guidance of, the legal.
Yeah.
Advice, and that's what.
No, I think you did the right thing.
No.
When you found it, I just don't think the ordinance should be written.
If I may.
Yep.
The advantage of that, besides first and foremost, that's the way those lots were platted in the original part of town, and those were adequate then. If someone designs the house correctly, as silly as it may sound, on that 50-foot lot, you can actually get a little bit more side yard on those narrow lots, relatively speaking, than what you might have on a 60 or 70 or 80-foot lot with a big sprawling house on it. If you meet the setbacks on an 80-foot lot, percentage-wise, you can actually have more side yard on the narrow lot than what you would have on that big lot. The other advantage of it from an urban development perspective, and goes a little bit to what Darren was saying about intensity, you could change that, and there are parts of town where there are old houses that, you know, maybe this would spur, incentivize some new development, because you could get two smaller houses there, a little more dense, but within the definition of that zoning district, perhaps make it a little more affordable, you know, and maybe renovate, revitalize some declining parts of town. Gotta be careful how to say that, but that's the way it goes. There are probably some long-term benefits to maybe make better use of the land in some of those areas of the old parts of town. Or from the developer's perspective, if you can sell two houses instead of one, that may be good for everybody.
It's both infill development, which is considered to be a good thing in planning, and it's cheaper homes. I mean, both of these are what Darren was speaking towards. And in this case, I certainly agree with what you're saying.
I'll get shirts that say bring back 50-foot lots.
And at
If
some
they were
point,
flat-
I'm not saying that maybe we shouldn't consider that, because 70-foot lots does lead to more sprawl. But at this point, I think we should just deal with this separately from the other issue.
well, you bring it up on SARI, I think you're on the agenda. What we're asking, okay. Anything else on, garage, any other things, topics you'd like to bring up? Plan development?
Like here, we got 17 units per acre, but it might make sense to be 20 units per acre or more, depending on what they fit.
All right, so we'll add that to a topic for a future, for the next meeting agenda. Next one. All right, we have plan development, the language on the Don brought up. Any other topics? With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
On that? All those in favor of adjourning this meeting? Opposed? All right, thank you all.